In an attempt to understand the global American empire, you need to understand who the original Americans were, how they managed their domain, and what they did in the face of globalization, modernization, and international ascension, and then demographic replacement. David Hackett Fisher's book, Albion Seed, is a behemoth, featuring 900 pages of statistics, diary entries, maps, and depictions that tell the story of 4 different Anglo-Saxon groups that settled in America. I use Albion Seed because the book is very entertaining and reductionist compared to American Nations by Colin Woodard. And we don't have time to discuss 11 American demographics. This map up here is actually from the American Nations, but it also can easily be laid out onto Fisher's format. So the book describes 4 different folkways, genetic and cultural lineages that you can trace many of our governing institutions and attitudes from. So the first folkway, or cultural genetic cluster, are the Puritans. They are pirates, merchants, speculators, industrialists. They are the descendants of East Anglian Protestant reformers that initially settled in New England. You'll see this as Yankeedom. And then spread throughout the northern Midwest and California. If Californians sound like moralistic Harvard professors, that is because they are the same people. Or at least they were Harvard professors. These moral reformers were behind most of the moral panics, including the political crusades of the abolitionist movement, temperance movement, eugenics movement, and the religious crusades, spreading the stemming from the Great Awakening evangelical movements. You can see the first born-again evangelical tendencies among the Protestants when you hear the story of Sir Harry Vane, a 24-year-old governor of Massachusetts, who was so devout he believed only Christians who were born again 3 times could truly be saved. The denizens of these Spartanesque theocracies would eat a stubborn diet of unseasoned vegetable stew instead of hunting game birds or lobster, because they stubbornly believed in upholding dietary tradition. As Protestants, as puritanical Puritans, they made it a criminal offense to waste other people's time. I will hopefully not be arrested by the Puritans today. Unfortunately, this very insular group was mostly demographically replaced in the latter half of the 19th century, mostly by Catholic immigrants. Where there once were pilgrims, the industrial success of the urban centers gave way to immigration and the mugwumps and paranoid provincial old stock holdouts like the mutterings of H.P. Lovecraft. And then there are the modern, ever moralistic termites crawling through the ashes like Senator Elizabeth Warren. There's a great historical irony in the fact that the great mercantile nation builders, whose archetype Brother Jonathan and later Uncle Sam would come to embody the WASP nation genetically, faded away as its memes and frugal financial networks would conquer the world. The next folkway described in Albion Seed are the Cavaliers or planters. These southern coastal settlers were the landed estate-owning aristocracy and their underclass of indentured servants, who mostly came from the triangular region of southern England between Kent, Devon, and Warwickshire. I'm probably butchering that. This old Virginia, so they settled in the Tidewater and then later throughout the Deep South. And you can see the purple arrow where they came from. Let's see. They created a Cavalier manorial system of estates and plantations that initially supplied the motherland with tobacco and rice and later cotton. I believe we're selling copies of Robert Filmer's Patriarcha at this conference. It's an extremely enlightening book, and it's also very enlightening to look at how Filmer's family would implement throne and altar into the governing of Virginia when his family moved to America. The planters were ruthlessly oppressive in their casual cruelty of their servants and oppressive nature towards the few women unfortunate enough to have been kidnapped and sent to the Virginia colony. The planters might have only held 20-minute long Anglican church services, but their balls would last up to 9 hours long. Social codes of honor bound planters together, not moral codes. This demographic would merge with the borderer folkway, which I will discuss later, but if you want a more distilled look into the modern planter and what he sounds like, Richard Spencer's maternal side is actually one of the largest land-owning families in Louisiana, and he properly conducts himself like an old Virginia aristocrat. The third folkway, the Society of Friends, or Quakers. These pious, tolerant, pacifistic individualists came from the poorer areas of England's North Midlands and settled around the Mid-Atlantic and Midwestern regions. So that is this light blue, the Midlands, although they didn't quite settle this other half. Even though they used to be the third largest demographic religious church in 1750, by 1820 they were the 10th largest. They were demographically submerged under a tidal wave of German and Scots-Irish immigration, whom they would later come to resent. Their influence can still be found in the individualistic municipal structure of a few states. I believe it's only really Pennsylvania, Ohio, Illinois, and a few other states. It's referred to as the corruption belt. So famously, Quaker Benjamin Franklin notoriously remarked on the swarthiness of the Swedish immigrants that settled on the frontiers of the Pennsylvania colony. If you want to look more into the moralism and activism of the Quakers, Kevin MacDonald's book, Individualism and the Western Liberal Tradition, absolutely tears the Quakers apart. They were radically egalitarian in their application of the law, but they believed in a strict hierarchy of morality and spiritual aristocracy overlaying secular matters. Their activism lasted all the way up until the 1960s civil rights and anti-war movement, where many of these activists were trained by Quakers. The last folkway, the borderers, our lovable Baz North FC settlers of Appalachia and the western hinterlands. So they originally came from Northumbria. They are called Scots-Irish, but they are neither Scottish nor Irish. These settlers were Calvinist radicals from loosely governed and frequently raided areas of Northumbria on the English border with Scotland, who later settled the Ulster plantations and then moved to western Pennsylvania and then spread like wildfire through the Appalachian Mountains and the American West. You'll see this in Greater Appalachia and the far west. Theologically, the borderers were mostly Presbyterians, identified by their red Covenanter sashes they wore, hence the term redneck. Their Presbyterian heritage could also be seen in their notoriety as Protestant revivalists that held sermons at the top of hills and supported William of Orange, Bill, creating the origin of the term hillbilly. These borderers would become the main Jacksonian Democrat supporters and have had 19 other presidents represent them, including the Bushes and Donald Trump. These borderers are known for their historic reputation as coal miners, log cabin builders, and cowboys. They are also distinguished by their clan families, honor code, and tradition of vigilante justice. Although they were historically predominantly Presbyterian, their religious affiliation would mutate and adopt the lowest church evangelical adaptations contracted by innovations from the Puritans and Quaker theology. The broader concept of liberty bound within Scottish Enlightenment natural law tradition is also significant. The get off my lawn ethos espoused by the Borders and their aversion to intellectualism and any form of synthesizing dialectics are also staples of these proto-libertarian impulses. The Borders were also unanimously resented by the other American settlers. A Pennsylvania writer once called Borderers the scum of two nations, while another Anglican clergyman called them the scum of the universe. God love the Borderers. Now that you